Hello and welcome to Bend the Knee, a Song of Ice and Fire podcast. I am Sir Matt, the Bud Knight.
And I am Sir Ezra the Watchful. Welcome to Follow Up Friday. We have some Ravens for you today. Some interesting, deep, challenging Ravens, actually. We have been sitting here for probably an hour and a half diving into this. We normally
just go, but we can't.
We can't this week. And also, I will say, these Ravens challenge us in a way that, like, we're short on time. Sir Matt is going on vacation, and I'm going the week after he returns, so we're trying to make sure we get content out. So
yeah, we actually just recorded Monday's episode just before this, so that was kind of on short turnaround. We mentioned it there, and so
right. So it's a little out of sorts, but we had these Ravens that we've been sitting on. A couple are challenging, so we will get to those in a moment. All right. What do you got for us, Sir Matt?
All right, well, let's go ahead and say that last week the trivia question was, what is the name of Theon Greyjoy's first ship? And the answer was the Sea Bitch. Sir Robert of Newcastle winning again.
Wow.
Yeah.
Goodness.
But I will say there were some new entries into the fray.
Good.
Wyman Parker, he didn't even answer because he's on vacation as well. He's actually going to the same. We'll
let that pass.
Yeah, he's going to the same kingdom that you'll be going to here. I'm gonna as my Facebook takes a second here. I want to just go ahead and shout out some of the people that also answer, because we had some new people answer here. I'm gonna say just Lady Rachel. Yeah, said have a nice weekend. Answered. Lady Kelsey, and she was so close. She was second. Yeah, so yeah, just cool. Wow. Just getting some more people jumping in here to the trivia. So good.
Wow, I feel like we need like a like a trophy of some kind. You know,
pass around.
We pass around like who's the current holder. We could even do it digitally. You know what I mean? Like have like a leaderboard or something. Yeah.
Yeah, like Hand of the King or something.
Yeah.
Something. Like a little pin or something. Yeah,
and it moves, and then we also can track like how many people have had the award. We'll create like a leaderboard. I think.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So it's not too late to dive in there and try to be first on trivia. So,
and I will say real quick, Sir Ezra, you asked a question. It wasn't a poll, but you asked a question on Facebook, and just kind of maybe talk about that so people can offer some more ideas.
I got I was talking to Lord Adam Parker. I think it was who else was in there? Sir Jared of Gebhardt. And who else? There was I think Sir Robert was there too. I can't remember. I'd have to go back and look.
Sir Matt chimed in as well.
Did you? Okay, good.
Yeah. You didn't see my comment?
I didn't see it yet.
Oh, okay. So well, I'll tell you what I said after you.
Okay, good. I was looking at basically, following pick one character and follow their point of view through the entire series. And after today's Ravens, I may. There's so many options because the character I just dove into for research today was Davos.
Yeah.
And I was just kind of like, wow, he definitely has a really cool point of view. But it was recommended by those guys that I maybe take a look at Tyrion and Jon Snow. Trying to think, were there other? Who did you mention?
Oh, I had said that maybe I should read Jaime's. That way I can get a hand up on the competition.
Oh, my gosh. That's hilarious. Wow.
Yeah.
But no, I would like more feedback. If it's posted. I think it might even be pinned on our Facebook page if you can go check that out. And then, maybe give us a little
But in
feedback.
Reality, I think you should just go ahead and read your favorite character, who we'll get to. Catelyn Tully, Catelyn Stark, Lady Stoneheart.
Yeah, that's another one I didn't think about, and you look at, because I was even looking at like which ones span the whole series type of thing versus, hers is a little bit different path. But yeah, I don't know. And also, where's the action at, Yeah. You've got someone like Tyrion who is all over the place.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll have to see. I just want to give it a go this summer while I have the time, and so I think I'm going to start on vacation.
Yeah.
So,
all right. Well, let's go ahead and dive into some of these Ravens. This one is from Ghost of Harrenhal, Sir Ezra. He asked 3 questions.
He has 3. He has 3 questions. But can I just say about the Ghost of Harrenhal? I believe the ghost has like been looking into like my soul.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on.
He is challenging
he or
you.
she. We don't know.
Or she,
okay, Ghost is basically just challenging me week in and week out, and I love it. Mm-hmm. So this is a good one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So all right, here we go. There is a most suspicious cook at the court in White Harbor, possibly with a taste for human flesh. Is Lord Wyman Manderly eating his enemies at White Harbor? Will he be Davos's key to the freedom and in turn Stannis? Then second question here. Maester Aemon and Brendan Rivers, a.k.a. Bloodraven, 2 former Targaryens, went up to the wall together and by all accounts had some time on their hands. Jon Snow found a bundle of dragon glass by the fist of the first men while following Ghost. Jorman and Mance found the Horn of Winter by just coming upon it. Do you think it's possible these 2 Targaryens have been playing us like an elephant on a Kavasi board? They are both capable of reading high Valyrian glyphs and capable of creating verifiable artifacts, books, and documentation. They by far have unraveled knowledge with the help of scrolls, royal secrets, warging, and greensight. They could get a giant horn, I bet too. Is there evidence that these 2 knew of the other's plan? In the end of Dance with Dragons, we're left with Bran of Tarth being brutally questioned by the Brotherhood without banners and nearly hanged at a word from Lady Stoneheart. Does she escape death with Oathkeeper and deliverance of Jaime Lannister? What if Lady Stoneheart completes her curse, eradicating the field of Freys, and with the help of Jaime, Brienne, and the Brotherhood without banners, and they secure the crossing at the Twins with Lysa and Catelyn's deeply intricate language? Could Lady Stoneheart know Edmure's location? Could Lysa? Edmure Tully is the rightful Lord of the Trident and could rally the armies of the Riverlands to protect the realm.
Yeah.
All very good questions, but let's go ahead and redive. Let's dive into the first one, I want to say.
Yeah, the first question I thought was the most challenging.
Right, so this is the one about Lord Manderly possibly eating his enemies at White Harbor. Will he be the Davos's key to the freedom and in turn Stannis?
Yeah. I think there is a most suspicious, air quote, cook, okay? The way I read this is that there's a suspicious, air quote, cook who is making these pies up at White Harbor. And so, from what I remember, Wyman Manderly, like when Davos Seaworth shows up, he's in bed with the Freys. The Freys are everywhere. They've gone from the Twins and basically spread north.
Hundreds of them.
Right, and they're all over the place. And they're basically they're in court with some of these northern lords and kind of keeping them in check. They're how do you put it? Like they're keeping tabs on things, reporting back to the crown, to the Lannisters, who they've made a new allegiance with, and it seems like Wyman, his 2 sons, one of his sons was killed at the Red Wedding.
Yeah.
Okay. I think Willis is the one who he's working to get his freedom back. He's actually still imprisoned, right?
Yeah, he's called out by Lyanna Mormont in the show. Your son was butchered at the Red Wedding, Lord Manderly, but still you refused the call.
Did he though? Did he? Because here's the thing. He is actually, he puts off like he's just this, jolly, fat, drunken type of guy, and he lets people make fun of him, but really he is probably one of the most conniving, smart, intelligent lords in the North. Okay, and I think he's working. He gives guest right to the Freys, so they get meat, some salt, whatever. They get some food, and they are some drink. They're protected under guest right. Well, that happened at the Red Wedding as well.
Right.
And in the Riverlands, basically, guest right is being questioned everywhere. Like, are we truly safe? It used to be a sacred thing. No one had really, truly broken it. There's a mention in my research. I didn't know this before I read this, Raven, the idea of the rat cook up in, at the Night's Watch. And the violations of guest right are pretty significant, because once you violate something like that that's so sacred, no one's trusting anybody. You don't really know what's going on. So our friend Tyrion, when he comes back in Game of Thrones to Winterfell, he sees Robb Stark with a sword across his lap, which is basically denying him guest right. He's not serving him food and drink.
Yeah.
And things. And
Tyrion's like attacked by their wolves.
Right, exactly. And so before the air quote here, Arya Stark and Ramsay Bolton's wedding, right? So Roose Bolton is going to have Arya wed to his bastard son, who he's legitimized at Winterfell. They're prepping for that. Wyman has Davos showing up to White Harbor to try to get him to pledge his men to Stannis' cause. So you get a lot of different things happening here. Wyman is trying to secure the freedom of his son, right, with the Lannisters. He's trying to show them that that he'll do what they need him to do. He's keeping face with them to get the freedom there. With Davos, when he shows up, it's reported by the Freys back to the Crown that Davos is here, and the Crown says, "Bring us his head. Tell Lord Manderly that we want him to be executed. He's dead." And I was always very confused when I first read it. I was like, "Oh crap, Davos is dead!" Like I was reading it, and Lord Wyman is like he puts on a good show, and Davos thinks he's dead. Yeah. He thinks he's taken away, and actually they kind of fake his death, and they find somebody who looks like him. They cut his fingers off, and they present that person to the Crown. They release Willis, his son, and that's what he wanted, right? Okay, the Freys are convinced too. They were convinced by Manderly that he had done this. So then, once they head north, they're actually called up to Winterfell for the wedding. Okay, so on the way there, so that he does not violate guest right, he gifts them, I think it's horses or something like that. He gives them horses and kind of tells them, because he's so fat and big and whatnot and has health issues, he has to ride slow. He has to stop and eat and different things. So he has them ride on ahead of himself. Now, the theory here, and what's not said, is that he actually has the 3 Freys that were with him killed, and he makes 3 Frey pies. Okay, so if you look at the show, that's what Arya did, right? That was her role, but in the books, it's very different. He makes the pies on his way to the wedding, right? And when he gets there, he actually serves Roose Bolton, who he knows who played a very sinister role in the Red Wedding and had and killed his son, and he goes there and he feeds those pies to the Boltons and the Freys and stuff. He's so jovial and he's happy to be there, but he doesn't know what happens to the Freys. He says, "I don't know. They rode on ahead of me. I have no idea what happened to those Freys." And and people, when they went to the town to question, Ramsay had sent some men down there, and the town in which they were last seen or whatever, they don't know. They don't know where they went, and what have you. So he's super plotting against Roose Bolton. So he says, the other question is, will he be Davos's key to freedom and in turn Stannis? I do think he is working that whole grand northern conspiracy idea. He says that he wants Rickon, who's over on Skagos, and he wants him to come back. Right. And if he can get him back, then sure, like he will pledge his men and he will pledge to his cause. They actually, it gets so heated at the wedding though, they actually attempt to cut Manderly's throat. But he's such a big guy, and he has such a big double chin, they can't actually cut his throat, and they just super hurt him. And then his knights get one of the Freys or whoever it was off of him, and whatnot. There's different things that happen too up there at Winterfell, where he goes to the bathroom and is possibly in there for hours meeting with who, the Grand Northern Conspiracy. Right. People. It's known that he needs to be in the bathroom for a long time because he's got these health issues and stuff. But really, he's in there secretly meeting with different people and plotting different things. Yeah. And people are dying, by the way, at the wedding. And that was interesting because Mance is there as well. One of the things that Wyman does as he's leaving is he asks for the Rat Cook song to be sung. And I think it's sung by Mance. I think Mance Rayder is the one who sings it because he's been sent back down there. And it's sort of another sign. It's a subtle way of saying, letting the people know that violating guest right is a bad idea, and that you will be punished for it in a sense. So they're eating their own kin, right now. And actually, Wyman himself is eating the pies. Roose Bolton wouldn't eat them until he did, and he's like, I don't care, I'll eat a Frey. Yeah. I mean, that's me putting that in his head. But I mean, he's digging in there. So
because there are very crazy theories about Roose Bolton.
Yeah,
and that there is a theory that he is a vampire. That is a long running theory, because they talk about or that he could even be like a skin changer or something like that. And that because why do they like flay people? Mm-hmm. Is that like then he kind of like takes their skin? There's Alt Shift X also has done a theory on it, and it's really good. And I suggest people go check that out. But it's in line with those is Lord Varys a merman theory and stuff like that. But the surprising amount of the surprising amount of what's the word I'm looking up as points that people have brought up to add validity to that theory is crazy. Like it's quite a large theory.
Right. Yeah. So anyways, I do think that there is a conspiracy. There is something going on, and I think a lot of people have talked about that and made comment on it. Wyman's way of going about it is very good. Like, he's still able to honor guest right, but then gifting them as they leave with the horses is basically a way in which he can say, like, it's over. Guest right is over, and now you're fair game. And so he takes out those 3 Freys, which and he actually plays off that he's super close. I think one of them, their name is Rhaegar Frey, I think. Could be wrong about that. I can't find it right now, but he plays off that he's super close with the Freys. He's a very good actor. He's very good at presenting one way, and he even tells Davos that it's kind of a cowardly thing that he's doing, but he has to act this way, and he's building that fleet. He's got that fleet that during the Harvest Festival, when he went back and he met with I think it was Bran at the time, and he's telling Winterfell that he's going to pledge all of these ships to their cause and get behind King Robb and stuff like that. So yeah, he's got this massive fleet there that's just ready to go.
Yeah,
which honestly Stannis needs and could use. So I can see it. I can see things going very differently. Look at how different they represented the Frey pie situation with Arya versus how it was done in the book. Mm-hmm. Very night and day different, right? A completely different character does it and things. So elements will be there, but it's completely different. Yeah. So anyways, that was a great question. That was the first part of the question. Let's see, what was the second part? Maester Aemon and Brenda Rivers.
Yeah, hold on, real quick though, because I brought up the vampire immortal theory.
Oh, sure.
So it's actually kind of cool. So I just want to bring it up. So in a theory known as Bolt On, like BOLT-on, some readers believe that Roose Bolton is an immortal being, possibly being an other that steals and wears other people's skin. Evidence 4. The faceless men of Braavos have demonstrated that it is possible to remove other people's faces and wear them as a disguise. The Dreadfort is proximate to Braavos, so the Boltons might have sailed there and learned the secret. Even if they never traveled to Braavos, House Bolton has been flaying people for centuries, so it would be most likely for them to discover that skin could be worn. Roose states that the only reason he does not kill his illegitimate son, Ramsay, is that it is taboo of kinslaying. However, Roose conceived Ramsay when he had hanged a miller and raped his wife beneath his swaying body and broke his sworn oaths by killing his liege lord. It seems uncharacteristically moral of him to shun kinslaying. It seems more likely to look on Sir Ezra's face right now, guys. Is like,
okay.
It seems more likely that Roose plans to take on Ramsay's identity and skin eventually, as Ramsay shares Roose's distinctive blue eyes. Mm-hmm. Even if the being wearing Roose's skin is immortal, the person needs to die every so often to avoid suspicion. It is possible that Roose killed his only trueborn son, Domeric Bolton, because Domeric did not share Roose's eyes. Reek notes that Roose does not seem to age. This is from A Dance with Dragons, Chapter 20, Reek 2. Though past 40, Roose was as yet unwrinkled with scarce a line to tell the passage of time. There was an agelessness about him, a stillness. And then it kind of goes on here. Dance with Dragons, Chapter 37. Nearly every mention of Roose Bolton mentions this summarized, indicates that he might be an other. At one point, it's even stated that Roose Bolton's own face was a pale gray mask.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow.
Just saying.
That's interesting.
It's definitely an interesting.
Wow.
Definitely interesting theory.
Well, I mean, even just the mention that his face looks the way that it does, and then that they flay people, and we know that you can change faces. That's interesting. Whether it's immortality or a vampire or whatever, that part is interesting. Yeah, I think.
You know, one of the things I really like about this book series is that you just went over this huge grand northern conspiracy, and you're talking about the medieval and political scheming that goes on. But then it's like we do jump back to chapters where there's magic and stuff going on, and sometimes they seem so separate from each other. It does almost seem as if you're reading two separate books. Yeah. And so then, so it's just interesting here that
Yeah, one thing that's tricky, so I just noticed this in my research, that what I was just talking about there, when Davos comes, it's actually, I think, in A Feast of Crows where they issue back to, it depends on the perspective here, in King's Landing, that they have killed Davos. Yeah. That they've executed him. But then Davos is still alive. Yeah. And then so you see that you have to match up where they were in their timeline there, because you remember how that book was kind of written together, so it was very different. So anyways.
Anyway, right. All right, we can jump into the second question, which is a lot more about magic. So going back to this one here. Maester Aemon and Brendan Rivers, a.k.a. Bloodraven, two former Targaryens, went up to the wall together and by all account had some time on their hands. Jon Snow found a bundle of dragon glass by the fist of the first men by following Ghost. Jorman and Mance found the Horn of Winter by just coming upon it. Do you think it is possible that these two Targaryens have been playing us like an elephant on a Kavasi board? Yeah. They both are capable of reading High Valyrian glyphs. We kind of already went over this, so just skip ahead here. Is it possible that these two knew of the other's plan?
Okay. Wait, knew of the other's plan and then decided to
try and do something about it.
Right. Okay. So why would they plant a fake horn though? That's the right? So that's kind of what we say, is that if they're playing us and that they themselves have stumbled across a horn and then replicated it. Is that what he's saying?
He's just saying, they're both capable of reading High Valyrian seers. They're capable of verifying. I don't think he says that they're. I think he's saying, do you think that they know it's possible they found out about it? Mm-hmm. Do you think it's possible they're playing us, as in maybe they don't? I don't know.
I think it's more that that because we learned that Mance is unsure of, it might be bluffing with the horn that he has, right? Because he has the horn of winter, air quote, and his plan is to bring down the wall, right? Mm-hmm. No, it's not. It's to get south of the wall, but that's his threat. So his bluff is that he has this horn that could do that. Where did is it that that the two former Targaryens, Aemon and Brendan, found the horn itself and then replicated it and put something there in its place or something, and then they have the horn and can use it for something else? You know what I'm saying? Because I don't know if we've heard anybody sound it. Does it have magical properties yet? Yeah, we don't really know. But I definitely believe in that they are capable of reading the High Valyrian. They are capable of creating verifiable artifacts. Yeah, there's where it's at. Are they? Can you verify them? Creating, right? Is that right? Am I reading that right?
Yeah, of creating verifiable artifacts, books, and documentation.
Because if they're
Wargame Greenside, they could get a giant horn to it. But yeah, so you're right. He is saying like they could replicate it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So
I think, and then also, is there evidence? So I think these are kind of two things here. Is there evidence that these two knew of the other's plan?
Yeah. Is there evidence that they knew of their plan?
There's not a lot of evidence. There's definitely a lot of rabbit hole theories.
I think Maester Aemon though wrote about the others a little bit, and I think he did.
Well, they would both have to. I mean, they both were of the Night's Watch,
right? And so they take it more serious. Maester Aemon has read the text of other maesters and seen sort of the records that have been left, and I mean the third sounding of the horn at the Watch is to indicate that the others are coming.
Right, and he would have to know secrets and things that people have said, and he would see it more than other maesters. I mean, just think about this: when Sam tries to tell, at least in the show, when Sam tries to tell the other maesters, "Oh, I killed a White Walker," they like laugh at him.
Right, yeah. So, yeah, good point. I mean, so I do think that they, we were actually talking before, and this is going to get into another Raven. We have somebody else talking about Blood Raven or Brendan Rivers. But as to what happened to him when he disappears, was it intentional or was it unintentional? I'm starting to think it was. I don't really know. I'm really up in. I could go either way. You could go down both rabbit holes. If he intentionally disappears, then yes, he does. There is evidence there then that he knows about the plan of the others, and he's actively trying to stop it and working with the children. Or are the children not who we think they are, and it was an unintentional disappearance in which he doesn't know the plans, but then is trying to seek Bran out to rectify the problem. You know what I mean? I don't know. So
there's also we know that they go up together, right? We know that Maester Aemon and Maester Aemon and Bloodraven go up together.
Yeah.
Samwell too, A Feast for Crows. Egg emptied out the dungeons too, so I would not need to say my vows alone. My honor guard, he called them. One was no less a man than Brendan Rivers. He was later chosen as Lord Commander. So we know that Bloodraven and Aemon go up to the wall together, and then Bloodraven is chosen as Lord Commander. We know that at some point he just goes missing, ranging beyond the wall.
Yeah, but the question is, so getting back to Winds of Winter and the horn, which horn? Where does this horn come from? Like, if is it the horn that Mance Rayder brought with him? Is that the horn, or is it another horn? Is it that did they make a replica? Did they make a replica of that horn? That's what I was kind of wondering. Is what I'm deriving from the Raven is that they made a replica and they themselves have it stashed away, and they're working to get it in the right hands and use it in the right way. So while Bran is there with the three-eyed crow, could that come into play? Is the three-eyed crow someone we can trust?
Right. Or
is the three-eyed crow someone we can't trust? Is the three-eyed crow even Brendan Rivers?
Yes.
I mean, that's the thing. So, so I think they did have some knowledge that the others were. I don't know that Maester Aemon did. I don't know that he did.
I don't know, because later when he talks, he certainly knows of the Azor Ahai prophecy, because later when he's sailing to
Bravos Old Town.
Old Town with Sam, he tells Sam, well, maybe Daenerys is actually the princess who was promised, and I believe he mentions that Rhaegar was obsessed with the theory, so he definitely had correspondence with Rhaegar. It seems like.
But was Brendan? I wonder if was Brendan obsessed with that theory? Did he know? I'm sure he knew about it. He was well learned, but just we don't get a whole lot about him worrying about that.
We don't really know exactly what happened, but it is also possible. We know that Aemon and Egg were pretty close. Egg on the 5th. Is it possible that the tragedy at Summerhall was because Aegon was trying to do some sort of? We know he was trying to use wildfire potentially. This is all what most people theorize. To wake dragons, but was he trying to wake dragons because he wanted dragons, or was he maybe he was looking into the Azor Ahai prophecy?
Yeah, for sure. So all that just does is give evidence that that they understand the long night and the prophecy and things like that, and the battle perhaps with the others and the great other for Aemon and for Egg. I know that Brendan knows of it, but what are his motivations? I guess if he learned that the Azor Ahai prophecy coming to fulfill to be true, or that we needed to fulfill that prophecy, if he ever learns that along the way, then he would be working to make it happen, I guess, because he seems to be a servant of the realm. He wants what's best for the realm, even if that means kinslaying when he kills the Blackfires that show up at court, and that's what gets him sent to the wall by Egg. So there's that. I don't know. I think there are some people who also speculate that Maester Aemon has had secret correspondence with Bloodraven still, and that perhaps through dreams and things like that, that sometimes you can't always tell whether a dream is real or not, and I'm just dreaming this because I'm losing. I'm the last of the Targaryens, one of the last, and I'm dreaming of my my relatives and things and stuff.
Well, yeah, really, all we really know is that Aemon is obviously a very smart dude because he's a Targaryen, so he grew up, at when they were in power and things were mostly relatively, I guess, kind of peaceful. He did have the Blackfire rebellions, but it was still you had stretches of peace and things like that. So, he was obviously very bookish, and then he goes to Old Town and becomes a maester, and he's also very old, so he has a lot of time to study. Is it possible that Bloodraven, aka Three-Eyed Crow, was communicating with him and he kind of knew he was, like just how like the Raven or the Crow, I guess, is communicating with Jon, like King,
right?
Sir Jorah Mormont's Crow. So is that possible? Yeah, I mean, it all is. I will say, real quick, I do want to mention. I like to mention theories.
Sure.
Because I think it brings up other people's ideas. There is a theory here. This is from the Forum of Ice and Fire. This is from the wiki, like the Westeros. If you go to songofIceandFire.westeros.org, you can find it connects you to the wiki and stuff like that. And this person is kind of talking about just a lot of things. He's talking about Bloodraven, but he's talking about Ghost and things like that. Ghost has white hair, red eyes, is a massive hint. Bloodraven has a pale white skin and red eyes. That parallels the weirwood trees he uses to keep an eye on events all over Westeros. Brendan Rivers has Blackwood blood. The sigil of House Blackwood is a weirwood tree surrounded by 10 ravens on a red background. The Blackwoods are descendants from the First Men, so that is how Bloodraven can have abilities usually associated with Northerners and wildlings. Some people are questioning it because he's kind of Targaryen. Anyway, then he kind of goes on to say there is a theory that Melisandre is the daughter of Bloodraven and Shiera Seastar. At least on one occasion, Mel has a vision: a wooden face, corpse white, and 1,000 red eyes, accompanied by a boy with a wolf's face. So it just kind of, it's just interest. It's just, interesting. Could be. We know that Melisandre's really, really old, at least from the show. We know Melisandre's really, really old, and she's just glamoring herself.
Right. She also does misinterpret things in the Flames, but I do know that she was looking at one point. I can't remember where it was in the series. It may be what you just read there. And she does almost make contact or see the Great Other in a sense, or something, what they're calling in the show the Night King. I believe. I do double check on that, but something she sees in the Flames that references those beyond the wall.
A lot of people see,
it scares her.
A lot of people see things in the Flames and they're scared.
Right. Yeah.
Varys, the Hound.
It's dark and full of terrors. Yeah. So, anyways, okay. Let's move on to the third question here from the Ghost, and it's talking about Brienne and the Brotherhood without banners. I need to back up here a little bit. In the Dance of Dragons, we're left with Brienne of Tarth being brutally questioned by the Brotherhood without banners and nearly hanged at a word from Lady Stoneheart. Does she escape death with Oathkeeper and deliverance of Jaime Lannister? So, okay. So she was charged, Lady, or Brienne, right, is, Lady Stoneheart, I'm sorry, Catelyn would like her to take Jaime, back to King's Landing so that she can secure her 2 daughters, correct? So she did do that, but when she brought him back to King's Landing, there were no daughters, right? And so to continue the quest, she's given Oathkeeper, and Jaime Lannister sort of says, best of luck, keep that oath. You've brought me this far, finish it. And so she's actually on her quest to find the daughters and track them down. And she's getting closer and closer and closer. I think she's more on the trail of Arya than she realizes at one point. So first of all, I think at the end of Dance of Dragons, we're kind of left with the idea that Brienne of Tarth could be killed.
Yeah.
Right? But then we back up later, and there is someone summoning Jaime Lannister away from the siege at River Run. And it's believed to be Brienne of Tarth, right? Wanting to keep her oath. And so it might have been something that, I don't know what it was that she says that helps Lady Stoneheart spare her life. But Lady Stoneheart's just vengeful. She doesn't really want to, it had to have been something. I'm interested to see what she says and what the conversation was with Lady Stoneheart and how she's able to deliver. Because now she wants Jaime Lannister back, I think. I think she wants to hold Jaime Lannister sort of accountable, because she also Jaime was swore that he was going to deliver her daughters, correct? So it's not just Brienne, it's actually Jaime as well. And so that's why he does give Brienne of Tarth Oathkeeper to help keep his oath. He helps her along. It's the only way that he knows how to do that, right? Mm-hmm. So she wants Jaime held accountable, and she wants, I guess the question is, from the ghost here, is does she escape death with Oathkeeper and deliver Jaime Lannister back to Lady Stoneheart? I don't know. Very different. See, this is where we can get into the very
totally different. Show and book are totally different.
Is it possible that the Brotherhood captured Jaime Lannister? Remember, he doesn't have his right hand anymore. He's not, the knight that he once was. Could he be overtaken with this meeting? I think he's camped right now outside of Riverrun, so he has all of his men around him. I don't think she can sneak in there and just take him out. But here's where I could see the twist, right? Brienne is super honorable, keeps her word, all this kind of stuff. If she is telling him, I need you to come with me, and we need to talk away from your men, etc., that could be how she gets him away.
Yeah.
And then she could capture him. She could actually overtake him and take him back to Lady Stoneheart.
Yeah.
Now, wouldn't that be something?
Yeah, well...
And I actually then think Brienne of Tarth might see what Lady Stoneheart is going to do, and she might step in and kill Lady Stoneheart.
Wow, wouldn't that be interesting?
I'm just saying, if you want to start going down the what-ifs and the paths.
Something interesting, though, is that... What happens with Brienne of Tarth in the show? I'm trying to think here. So Jaime goes to Riverrun, gets Edmund Tully to walk in and let everyone basically out. He lets Edmund Tully walk in, and then he takes over, and then they kill the Blackfish. And then Brienne leaves. Her and Jaime kind of have like a stare down, and then not like a stare down, just like a look,
right?
A longing look as she kind of sails off with Podrick, I believe.
Right.
And then
in the show, she goes back up to Winterfell.
Right.
And to serve Lady Sansa. Right.
So
now, before that, though, she actually is in Lady Sansa's service. I think she helps Sansa get to. How does this happen again in the show? How does she eventually get sent by Sansa?
She stumbles across Sansa, doesn't she?
Well, I think she goes to the Sansa is wed by Littlefinger to Ramsay Bolton in the show.
Yeah, totally different in the book.
Once she hears that announcement, she takes for Winterfell. And she's trying to put the light to kind of indicate
that's right. She's trying to get her out. Yeah,
right. So trying to get her out, and so then she enters into her service, and she's sent by Sansa to get her uncle's support.
Yep.
For them to take back Winterfell, and they just at that point in time, the Blackfish can't. He believes he's never even really met his.
So is it possible something similar happens in the books where Sansa gets out, escapes, although she's not really she's not with Ramsay Bolton in the books.
No, she's not. So the only thing that I think so if you want to know how it could look in the book, I think, she could go to Jaime there. She could bring Jaime back to Lady Stoneheart, and he could be captured by Lady Stoneheart and held by her again. So she could be going. So hold on, hear me out. So if she did, because I believe what the ghost is getting to here is that she is sent. A lot of people believe to get Jaime. I think she accomplishes that and goes back and feels like she owes, Lady Stark something. So she brings Jaime Lannister back, and then they hear Arya Stark is being wed to Ramsay Bolton, and that's the same wedding that Wyman is going to. She heads there, and that same situation where she gets in, she talks to who she thinks is, she doesn't know what Arya even looks like, right? And she talks to who she thinks is Arya, Jane Poole, and maybe does the whole light situation again where we'll be in camp, we can help you, etc. type of thing. I think that could still happen and be close to that. But it's really this in-between step. Does she go get Jaime? Does Jaime talk her into abandoning Lady Stoneheart and just going to protect? Does he give her intel in the book on where Arya is, and then she goes to the wedding? That type of situation.
Yeah.
So.
There's some other, because the show happens kind of in a weird order, because the other thing that's going on is, the pink letter has been sent, and there's the obviously Battle of the Bastards at some point coming.
Right.
So this would all have to include. Hear me out. John's gonna have to get up. That sequence is gonna have. John gets resurrected. He leaves the Night's Watch. So here's something I think could happen is Sansa still gets the Knights of the Vale to help Jon, and Jon's wildling army, and he still kind of goes around, and then maybe Lady Stoneheart comes with the Brotherhood Without Banners, and the Brotherhood Without Banners helps them fight as well.
Do you know who else?
And then Lady Stoneheart dies in
some way. Yeah.
In some way during the thing.
Another possibility is that Edric Dane, Ned Dane, has taken half of the Brotherhood Without Banners. He doesn't believe in this Lady Stoneheart. It seems like against her coming to be, right? Beric Dondarrion gives the flame of life or whatever to her to bring her back, and then supposedly that's his last death, his seventh death, which I hope is not true, and I don't believe is actually. But
because God, the stuff we get him into the show, he's like,
right. But
none of that stuff happens. Who's gonna?
Do you know who I think takes his place
Jaime.
in the show? Is this Beric Dondarrion's squire, which is Ned Dane, who would go back and retrieve the Sword of the Morning, and who would march with the sword back north, and who could be standing beyond the wall in place of Beric Dondarrion, Ned Dane, with Sword of the Morning. I think could be a real possibility.
Yeah,
so
and that could actually be Lightbringer. And
exactly,
the whole deal.
It does, and I think you kind of need a Dane who's worthy of that, and he seems to be pretty well worthy of it. He seems like a good, well-raised kid. He's squired under Beric, and Beric has taken good care of him. So
unless you have Jon Snow, who's actually Stark and Dane. So wow, geez.
Right, I know. But wouldn't that also make sense that instead of House Aaron coming to help from the Vale, it would be House Dane rising and coming secretly?
And then you could do something totally different where you have, like, I don't know, maybe the Knights of the Vale fight on the other side or something, because if Littlefinger's taking over there, you know what I mean? And
right.
Because I do think the Littlefinger stuff totally 100% different in the books. He's way too important of a character to kind of kill off the way they do in the show. Yeah.
Now, the last little bit here, just with Lysa and Catelyn's deeply intricate language, could Lady Stoneheart know Edmure's location? Could Lysa Edmure Tully is the rightful lord of the Trident, etc.? It may come down to that it could be that maybe they send Brienne in there and she can't get Jaime, but she can get, Tully, perhaps. I can't remember exactly. Did they go through with the stuff in the show? I think they're still sieging outside, and they've got Edmure kind of tied up. He's on display, like almost mocking the Tullys outside. The Freys are in control, and then the Lannisters show up and they're like, "What are you doing?" You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I don't really know how that's going to go, but yeah, I think there still could be something with Lysa's secret language and Catelyn talking and communicating. That could definitely be something.
And in the show, I don't even think we're going to get any more Edmure Tully. I think even the actor said he wasn't even cast in this season.
Huh. Okay.
So
yeah.
So all right, let's move on to the next one here.
Yeah, who we got? So we've got Andrew Farthing. All right. Hey guys, fan of the show. I like the reread idea. It's okay.
I know.
We'll let it go this time.
Well, we'll get to why it's okay in the next.
Sir Matt, we'll get there. Okay. Fans of the show like the reread idea. Here's an idea I've been tossing around since the end of last season. It doesn't mesh with who I want to kill the Night King, but what if Jaime ends up killing the Night King and he is venerated as the King Slayer instead of being disparaged as the King Slayer ? I think that fits with Gur's habit of taking an attribute and subverting it. Thoughts? Great question, actually.
Great question. And so this is where we come down again to difference between the show and the books. In and something I think I actually in the show I don't think Jaime will do it, but in the books I actually think there's a high likelihood he could, because I was reading a chapter in A Clash of Kings, the other day, in which Tyrion has a one-line kind of answer to someone. I can't remember who it was, but he says he's joking about like Cersei and just his relationship with her, and I think he might even be talking to Varys. I think it's when they're kind of having their like meetings when he's Hand of the King.
Yeah.
And he jokes about like, oh, I've often thought of using the faceless men to kill my sister. Just like, I mean, he's totally joking about it. But there is the Valonqar theory that Cersei is going to be killed by her younger brother, which most people think is Jaime. A lot of people think is Tyrion. But then there's the other part too. Another thing, which is Arya's list. So if Jaime or Tyrion were to kill Cersei, it would kind of take off that thing of Arya's list. And with so many people, if Cersei's gone, Arya's list is kind of meaningless, because I think the Mountain is on it. I mean, the Hound is also on it. I don't think that's happening. But, like, if the Hound kills the Mountain, because Clegane Bowl, then, and Jaime or Tyrion kill Cersei, then, like, what's really left on Arya's list? Ellen Payne? Like, it kind of becomes pointless. So what if Tyrion uses Arya to kill Cersei, like faceless man thing? Then that leaves Jaime as this character to what is he going to do? And in the show, it seems like he's completely done with Cersei.
Yeah.
So I do think it is actually possible that this is actually a really good thought, that Jaime could be the one to kill the Night King.
Yeah.
Maybe he dies doing it. I do also really like the idea of Azor Ahai not being someone other than, like, say, Jon Snow. Like, whether it's the Hound, and it would be so great because it's just this guy who, like, has this fear of fire. And I like the idea of it being someone other than, like, the main characters. I know Jaime is kind of in that group, but I kind of consider him in, like, that second tier of, like, main characters outside of Tyrion, Jon, Daenerys. So I just think it would be cool if perhaps it were, like, Jaime or, Jorah Mormont, like somebody you don't immediately think of. So it would be kind of cool.
Yes,
and then Jaime goes on to say be like Hand of the King or something, which we go back and people had been talking about maybe making him Hand of the King, and then it would be kind of ironic because he's lost his hand and he was he guarded the king, and so I don't know.
Okay, let me just throw something out here to you. We have this The Long Night, which took place thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago, before Aegon's conquest. So who was in Westeros at the time? Had the Targaryens really, no. So now some people believe that the first men, air quote, could have been some of those from Valyria, right, coming across the land bridge. So that could be the case. It could have been someone of the Targaryen heritage or whatever. But it seems like, for the most part, that Azor Ahai, the hero who rose to face the night, was someone of the first men. Yeah. And so it wouldn't maybe necessarily be a Targaryen. I don't know. It had me thinking that when that took place, that we always think that they became obsessed with this prophecy and this idea, right? But and maybe they're two different things, I think though that hear me out here. Let me pull this up. I think they reference. I think he's like an Andal. Like he's like more of Andal. Of Andal origin.
Of Andal origin, yeah.
Okay. See, there's a quote about the Long Night. The oldest histories we have were written after the Andals came to Westeros. The first men only left us ruins on rocks, so everything we know about the age of heroes in the Dawn Age and the Long Night comes from the accounts set down by Septons thousands of years ago. They are archmaesters of the Citadel who question all of it. So it sounds like it was before the Andals came, too, so it would have been even before that.
Yeah, I think, okay, so I think in some of the wikis they say like, oh, this person is more of like Valyrian descent. This person is more of like Firstmen descent. It doesn't say that just immediately on his kind of description. So
yeah.
You can toss that out, or maybe it's true. I don't know.
Who? What with Jamie?
Jamie, yeah.
Oh no, I was actually backing you up there.
Oh well, sweet. Okay, cool. That remember. Keep
no,
going.
that backs you up because I mean the Lannisters, Land the Clever, and all this different thing. Yeah, there's some Andal, maybe blood mixed in there, or whatever. But there's nothing that says that he couldn't have the blood of the Firstmen because the Firstmen established those 7. Gareth Greenhand, and is that his name, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who was the father of all these different, prosperous lords and whatnot. I mean, kind of I think it was more of just a great, great king who had many descendants who then ended up ruling. Because, again, you're spanning thousands of years, right? During the Age of Heroes, several Bran the Builders, right? Who lived in this kingdom. I think he's a descendant of the Firstmen.
Yeah.
I think the Lannisters. Now, there's Andal mixing in there too, but I think it's just my whole point was that it's not necessarily going to be a Targaryen in my book.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just my thought.
Yeah,
okay.
So, I don't know. Yeah. Great question. I don't know. I like it. I just like it. I like the idea. I like the idea of it being Jamie.
Yeah, it would be cool. It would actually be cool.
I think
especially since the clip that we saw today, like every time we warm up for an episode, Sir Matt will pull up a clip, and the clip he pulled up today from the show was so my god,
the scene where Jamie's telling Brienne about why he stabbed the Mad King in the back.
Such good acting, and
I think, to be honest, I think that's the first scene in the show where, because season 1 is good, and then it's not, and like I think that's season 3, but that's really when you're like, or maybe it's like late season 2, early season 3. Where you really kind of realize this is going to be like an epic show. Like, this is, like, it's just filmed really great.
Because you had heard for so long Kingslayer, and he just takes it, right? Mm-hmm. But then he has this moment of vulnerability where he's with, Brienne, and they're in the hot tub or whatever, and he's just sort of like telling her what really happened.
A scene that is not in the book that they set up even better in the show is, and I think this is another thing where like the stuff that could have happened, like the scene where Robert Baratheon is talking to Barristan Selmy and Jaime Lannister about their first kill. Mm-hmm. So obviously, when the show had been written, the 4 or the 5 books had been out. I think Dance of Dragons had just come out when the show started. So obviously, people know Jaime's story. The writers know Jaime's story, so they can go in and add some of these scenes to add context. But Jaime tells Robert he'd been saying the same thing he'd been saying for hours. Burn them all. Mm-hmm. But Jaime still seems kind of like a dick at the time.
Yeah, he does.
And so, but then it adds to it later. Oh, whoa, he was saying burn them all. Like, it's great. So it's just great. Yeah.
Yep, for sure. Okay, I think we got one more Raven for this week.
Now here we go. Sam the Hammer is here right now. Sir Matt and Sir Ezra, forgive me for my lack of protocol in my last Raven, where he had called us guys. So here's looking at you, Andrew. No, we're just kidding. It's totally fine. But
there's nothing to forgive. All right.
So I just saying. I am a simple smith from the western edge of the Stormlands, and I've not much dealt with highborn lords. I hope you will forgive my petulance. There's nothing to forgive.
Yeah.
To give my thoughts on the Valyrian Warhammer discussion, it is unlikely that one would ever exist. The main component of a hammer's effectiveness is its weight. The greatest impact can be applied by bringing the hammer down onto one's opponent using gravity to increase the velocity of a weapon. A lighter material would only serve to increase the size of the hammer's head, making it less wieldy and making the point of impact less focused. Valyrian steel would aid in making the hammer less prone to damage or chipping, but I doubt many warriors would choose durability over effectiveness. Handles or decorations may be forged from Valyrian steel, but I doubt the head would be. Good point.
Okay.
All right. The reason for this message is to ask your thoughts on how you think the popularity of A Song of Ice and Fire may affect the last couple of books. I've heard you mention that you have misgivings about the R+L=J theory, that maybe the books will be different from the show, and even that it is too obvious a route for Gur to go down. I once read that the art of good writing is that the plot will lead to the only logical conclusion while still being a surprise to the reader. Gur appears to be very adept at this by leaving clues and foreshadowing that allow the plot to deviate dramatically from the expected path without breaking the logical progression of the story. As an individual reader, you would never notice many of these until after the twist was revealed. But what happens with every line of a book is dissected by thousands of readers at discussion and length. We see things we didn't see before, and this encourages us to go back and reread each time, picking up on more clues and sharing them with each other. This effect is amplified when there is so much time to wait in between installments. The question I have for both good Sir Knights is, what effect do you think this has on Gur's writing? How can he feel like he has surprised us in when every path has already been discussed on Reddit? It's true. He'll be more inclined to throw in red herrings for the benefit of Tinfoil Hat Brigade. Is this why he is spending more time on side projects? I imagine it could be quite demotivating if you find out someone has predicted the ending of your magnum opus and shared it online. I believe that the major plot threads of A Song of Ice and Fire are well set in Gur's mind, and that these may be the same as the show, but real interest in the remaining books will be in how the minor plot threads resolve. But will it be the same series that Gur set out to write, and will it be better or worse for it? And will Gur ever be able to truly surprise us again? Looking forward to hearing your thoughts, Sam the Hammer.
Wow, Sam, that's
absolutely great question.
Great question. And let me just start by saying that Gur has surprised me in how well. I mean, I am shocked at how good his writing is. Like, I think sometimes, like, you know, when I first read it, I was confused a little bit. You know, I still got I got the main piece of it. I got it. You know,
right.
But I came out of it going, where's everybody going to go? Like, what's gonna? I was totally baffled. Right. Second read through, you start to kind of get a little bit more. A third time through, you get even more. Now, I think his editor at one point said he has a 3-step like approach to reveals, which is pretty cool. So there's this like subtle, you know, hint to the very, you know, readers that pay close attention to minor details, right? And then that could be followed later by a little more obvious clue for those who are less attentive, and then you've got basically then just spelling it out for everybody at the end. Here we go, you know.
Right.
So there were clues along the way to the Red Wedding, you know, and when we look back, we're like, there they are. But I think if you were reading, and I wasn't at the time, I've had the privilege of reading from straight through, you know, and not really stopping to consume it. I read Game of Thrones all the way through Dance of Dragons and just, you know, had no idea. When the Red Wedding came, I was like, wow.
Yeah.
You know, but I didn't have so I was surprised, and I didn't really catch all the subtle hints and stuff along the way. But I think there's still a bunch going on right now in A Dance of Dragons, and I know that there's there's a Reddit theory for everything. We've been kind of going over those, but I do think, I don't know that he's looking at those. Do you know?
No,
I don't think he's.
Yeah, the computer he says he writes on is like DOS based.
Yeah.
So first of all, I just hope that
that it's backed up.
Backed up with, I guess, floppy drives, because man, those things were real.
I know,
you know,
I know.
like.
I know, it makes me nervous, but I think that he is not really paying attention to that. I think he just knows he's a damn good writer, and he's just going to do what he's going to do.
Yeah. He also talks about how his characters evolve over time.
Right. So now I do think he's seen the show, and I think most people are kind of like show heavy. It happens here on this show. We have the showisms all the time. So I think that actually might help that it's going in a completely different way, and can't do what a book can do with its characters, right? So I know that it's going to be completely different, and as far as like even the whole, you know, R plus L equals J being different, I even think too that there's enough hinting that it could be a thing. Like it's a false lead, right? He's leading us there, but then time and time again, there are these little tiny hints, and he's eventually going to spell it out for us. So I just say be ready for that Winds of Winter. I think that's coming. I think a big reveal is coming, and we're going to learn more about different people's heritage and who is who and things. I don't know. What do you think, Sir Matt? Though, I mean,
so there's a lot of things I want to break down here. So first and foremost, something I think I said this the other day. I can't remember if I was saying it on the podcast or I was just talking to you, Sir Ezra. Was that, if anything, I think Gur's kind of oddly. So this is really odd, and I've said this a lot. Is that it's so odd that the books aren't finished, but the show is about to, because normally that's never how we get it, right? Like with Harry Potter, I mean, it was like the first movie I don't think happened until like the first 4 books had been out, and then she was cranking them out like every year. But more often than not, it's like, Lord of the Rings, the books have been out forever, or the book comes out and then we'll get a movie or whatever a couple years down the line, or relatively quick if it's successful. So I actually think that Gurr actually has the advantage of watching the show, because he may see things like the way the show did Littlefinger. If he looks at that and he was like, you know what, maybe that was his plan, he's like, that's just not a good idea. So then he can kind of, in a way, he could, I guess, still be influenced by it, but by seeing like, no, I can do better than that, because there's no way I think that the showrunners came up with Hodor. No way. And I do think Hodor is definitely happening, because it has to. It has to happen.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
And that's fine. R plus L equals J and all this other stuff, and there's stuff that the show can't do, so you go into that. But as far as Gurr's writing goes, I do believe he is actually writing a magnum opus. I mean, this I think it's arguably the greatest story, at least fantasy story ever told. I'm actually someone where I actually kind of struggle reading books. I've just never been my thing.
Yeah.
And I watched the show first, and I was actually kind of nervous about diving into the books, because having seen, I read like The Hobbit growing up, and I tried to read Lord of the Rings, and I love the movies, absolutely love them, but I talked to Sir Ezra about this, and it's too confusing. Their names are like all identical, and there's so many characters, and I'm overwhelmed. Yeah. And Gurr doesn't. In this, there are a lot of characters, but for some reason I'm not overwhelmed. Yeah. It's like it's perfect, and it's just perfect enough. And so, like, I think even stuff like that he takes into consideration. Like, how is my reader going to understand this? Is it too much? Is it too little?
Can I tell you something that he does in the histories? So yes, the Targaryens can be confusing, right? But he associates things like the Old King, the Mad King, things like that to help us with that. Another thing that he does too is, like, if you look at the Hightowers, you've got like Alyssa, Alicent. Like, he has variations of the beginning sound, right? He's got that same sort of like for lines of people, right? You've got Lan the Clever, right? You've got Lionel. Yeah, you've got all it kind of makes sense, I guess. I don't know. So he does try to help us, I think, a little bit, and make characters distinguishable, even in his histories.
Yeah, but his histories isn't the main series, so he can obviously do whatever he wants, I guess, more with that. But so anyway, I don't know. I think it is influenced. I will say, I do think obviously it has to be. It can't not be like influenced. But I do think it's probably influenced for the better, if anything.
I actually think it was intentional. The more I read and I listen to HBO, the directors and the creators talk about their conversations with Gurr and what he has said in different public settings, it's going to be different, number one. And then number two, I think it was intentionally meant to be different. Yeah. I actually think, you know how writers sometimes have an alternate ending or several endings? I think he gave them one of those endings and said, here's a good one. Go with this. Yeah. And there's a lot of evidence in his book that could have led us to that ending, but I think he's going to give us a different ending. I do. And so, but I'm saying if it is intentional, then I think there's less influence from the show. Yeah. Because he intentionally set out to do that. Yeah. And he has 4 or 5 books under his belt by the time he starts to kind of work with HBO.
And we don't really, and that's another thing, we don't really know how much. I mean, he's the executive producer, but I don't know if he has like complete authority to say it has to go down 100% this way, because the showrunners are probably like, with the Dorne stuff, our ratings aren't as good when we do Dorne stuff. He's like, okay, we'll cut that out. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. And so it seems like we're gearing up for a pretty safe ending in the show. And I do not, the book is going to be so complex. And I think that's another reason, and we said this before, I think that's why he's taking his time with Winds of Winter, because I actually am of the belief that we will get Winds of Winter, and then we will actually get a Wish of Spring relatively close. I think that he's probably actually writing both, and that he just the easier part is the ending, the ending you can see from the beginning. Okay, this is where I want everyone to end.
Mm-hmm.
It's I need to make sure that it's kind of when you're doing like a nice Christmas present, right? And you get that really ornate bow. You just want to be able to pull it out and not rip the pages, rip the paper. You want to be able to pull it out and it all just unravels beautifully. And I think that's why Winds is probably the hardest of the books to write.
Yeah, I agree with that. So Feast of Crows and Dance of Dragons, right? The body and the volume of characters and plot threads gets to be so big that it does split. I think he needs to and is going to in this Winds of Winter. So I agree with you that maybe he is writing or outlining some of A Wish for, a Hope for, what is it? A Wish
for Spring, I think is what it's supposed to be called.
I think if that's happening, that's awesome. But I also think, too, he is sort of kind of, like it's almost like it's gone, bottleneck back up into one book, which is what you want. It helps everybody. It brings people back together. The threads that went out now are coming back. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I don't know. So I think he still can surprise us.
Yeah,
I actually think he can. I think there are things that I don't know. Have you heard anybody mention the whole, like the idea that the Sword of the there's a lot of stuff with the Sword of the Morning coming back into play.
And I'll say this, and I'm sure he has the outline plan, but something we talked about before is whose POV is it going to be for some of these chapters when you have everyone together? Like, think about the dragon pit scene. Whose POV is that? Because that one scene in the show, you can have POV scenes. If you kind of show a character walking in, then it's kind of their scene. Just by if Jon Snow's walking up to talk to Daenerys, it's kind of Jon's scene with Daenerys.
Right. My question: Do you think that scene is even going to happen in Winds of Winter?
Oh, I don't know.
I know. I'm just saying.
I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
That actually, I was just using that as an example. It's not important, but like the dragon pit scene, if that does happen, it changes everything depending on whose scene is. If I had to guess, I would say that it is Tyrion's scene. If I just had to take a guess, if it goes down roughly the same way. So,
yeah, sure, yeah, no, I agree with you. The point of view does matter,
and that you can't with books every scene, you have to whose point of view is it? Like Jon Snow getting crowned king in the North, is that Jon's point of view or is that Sansa's? Because those are totally different feelings, So or is it actually it'll probably be Davos's scene if I had to take.
Well, if Littlefinger's there, is there something? Do they ever introduce like a new? Yeah, they introduce a new point of view or something. I don't know. So Anyways, I think we will get surprised. I think that he is somewhat influenced, but I think it's actually more he has set out with this false sort of I think he gave them a great show idea and they'll make a lot of money and stuff, but then he's kept close to the chest his own design, and I think it will be the book the series that he set out to write. Even though they evolve over time, I still think he has a vision.
Yeah, and send us a raven or a response. Who do you think POV chapter it will be if the dragon pit does happen? I want to know what other people think who it'll be.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome.
So, all right, guys. Trivia question.
Yeah.
Can't skip that.
Don't skip that. My goodness.
What everyone loves here. So, all right. Who exposes Arya Stark's identity to the Brotherhood without banners?
Wow. This is a good one, man. This is a good one.
Yep, Sir Ezra didn't get it
I did not get it initially.
When I first got it here.
Every
week I always have to.
Don't jump the gun too quick.
Every week I always forget to pull up some random houses thing, so I just got to keep it going every week, So let's find another random house here to pull up there.
Oh, for their house words. Yeah, I was gonna do House Manderly, but their words are not actually mentioned in the book series, as far as I know. I don't see them anyways. So what do you got? Also, by the way, while Matt's pulling that up, make sure to send Sir Matt and I your ravens at btkcast@gmail.com. Theories are welcome. And be sure to check out the Patreon page, patreon.com/bendthenee. We have the Black Council on there. We've got some Green Dreams, a series. We're going to get back to the Meat and Cheese as well. And a lot of fun there. We'll create you a custom sigil, get your Westerosi house going. And another quick mention here, it would really help the show if you guys are able to go over to iTunes and give us a review if you think we're doing okay. Cool. If not, then awesome. If you have some more constructive criticism or feedback, just send us a message to say, guys, here's what I'm thinking or whatever. We are always willing to look at that and take it and consider it. We play to our strengths and do the best we can. But so those reviews on iTunes definitely help the show a lot. They help us grow and get more recognition and things like that. So which we would really like, so we can kind of continue the old book club. So we got this thing planned out for years.
Yeah. All right. Well, here we go. In the words of House Ashford, of Ashford Meadow, little Duncan Egg.
Yeah, connection. Yeah.
Connection there. Our sun shines bright.